I suppose 5 years ago, the ewes, we had our Cheviot flock. At that stage, we were running about 350 ewes. The ewes were spending more and more time sort of on the inside ground. We were trying to increase our output, so we were keeping the ewes in longer. We built a shed so we could allow them indoors. We were trying to, increase our output. But really all we did was we were driving up our costs, but our output was still, we were doing a bit better maybe than a normal hill flock, but we weren't justifying the extra costs we were putting into it. We were spreading a lot more fertiliser on our low ground and that, we were keeping our lambs in. We weren't putting our lambs back to the hill. We were trying to fatten them off the farm. But all we were doing really was driving up our costs. We weren't increasing our input or our output as much as I would have liked. So then that's when we made a decision. We started to push the ewes back to the hill more, and we thought it was a better use of the inside lands to have a lowland flock on it. So the hill flock, our output's dropped, there's no doubt about that. Our output on the hill flock has dropped since we pushed them back to the hill. Our scanning's probably not as good as it was, our weaning's definitely not as good as it was, but it's an awful lot, there's more profit in it now purely because the costs are an awful lot less. The ewes are spending at least 90% of their time, their lives on the hill. We bring them in for tipping, we bring them in for lambing. Apart from that, they're going back to the hill. They're rearing their lambs on the hill. We bring in the lambs, wean them, we sell them as stores. And that's the way we're going. It seems to be working. It's not perfect, we're changing, chopping and changing every year, but we're getting there. It's more back towards the system that I want to get to. But I suppose the ewes always went to the hill. It wasn't a case where we had to reintroduce them to the hill. So the ewes knew the hill, they knew our section of the commonage where they were supposed to be, because they always went to the hill for a portion of the year. They went when their lambs was weaned, they went for the winter after tipping. So we didn't, some people have to try and reintroduce them and teach them where their place on the hill is. We were okay, we didn't have to do that. But it's just, basically we just kept putting them back to the hill and recording, weighing them before they went and weighing them when they come back in. That was a big advantage then, because we were able to see ewes that were losing condition on the hill, or ewes that weren't rearing good lambs on the hill. We just culled them out of the system. We were ruthless at culling, and we culled an awful lot of sheep. We started off with 350 Cheviot sheep. At one stage we were back, we hadn't much more than 200. We're building a little bit back up now, but it was just ruthless culling on sheep that weren't standing on the hill. And they were the flock of sheep that had been here, my father had the same flock, or the bones of the flock, and it's not easy to start culling out a flock and go real hard culling them, but that's just what we had to do. And generally it was the best ewes in the place that we ended up culling, but they were the ones who weren't rearing the lambs. They were coming in and they looked like the best ewes in the place, but when you looked at their performance, looked at what lambs they were rearing, their output, they were the ones that had to go. And we've ended up with a sort of a smaller maybe type of sheep than what we had maybe 5-10 years ago, but we've ended up one that's doing the job. They're rearing their lambs, they're bringing in lambs. It might only be a single small store lamb, but they're bringing in a lamb and a saleable lamb. Whereas, the bigger sheep, they were looking after themselves, not looking after the lambs. My target with the hill flock for the next couple of years is that it's to keep doing what we're doing basically. It's to get them I only want them to come in off the hill to lamb them and for tipping. That's it. I don't want them and shear them obviously. I don't want them in for the rest of the year. The target is to try and keep them out on the hill as much as possible, and that they will live on the hill, thrive. We had ewes that looked fine, but they were going thin on the hill. They just weren't standing the hill. It's to weed out all of them and just have a flock of ewes who are happy to live on the hill all year round and rear their lambs. And that's the target, that's the plan going forward. It's just more the same.